Hello and welcome to another episode of the Unwanted Opinions podcast. Jay and I are back recording Monday evening about 7:30. Going to recap those wild card weekend games. We had two games, so we know title games are set. You got the Bills and the Chiefs. You got the Packers and the Buccaneers. We'll recap those games and throw a little preview towards next weekend's championship weekend. James Harden got traded to the Nets. Finally, I know Jay and I just haven't got our 2 cents in on that. I know that's almost like beating a dead horse by now, but I've just got some thoughts and stuff that I really haven't heard people say much of. So, and I also want to get Jay's reaction as well. So we'll go over that. Probably won't mention any of the head coach hirings yet, just because we're going to wait and see when they're all filled, and then Jay and I will recap that after the season and everything, because we still got a couple jobs to be filled. But should be a good show for you guys tonight, and we'll just get right into it. How are you, Jay?
Good. Just ate, got a full stomach, feel real good. Made some pasta with some shrimp and some zucchini, spiced it up a little bit.
Are the shrimp master.
Yeah, man. That's what I do.
You love you some shrimp.
This was just, cooked shrimp on the stove top. Nothing fancy. We didn't deep fry it or nothing. It was pretty good.
Yeah, that's all right. I just want to rep in Ball State Cardinals right now. ACJ's Ohio State stuff in the background as always. So just repping my college. He doesn't have Purdue stuff on, even though that's where he got his degree from.
Yeah, but you can't see it. But right above me, I got the two certificates, and then above that's my graduation picture. So I got some Purdue stuff in here.
I like it. At least you're repping a little bit. I still got to get mine back up. But anyways, before we get into all this stuff, as always, you can subscribe to the Unwanted Opinions podcast anywhere you find us: Google Play, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can check us out on YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Unwanted Opinions with Nick and Jay. Hit us up in our email, unwantedopinionspodcast@gmail.com. If you got questions, comments, we're active out there. So hit us up.
Uploading videos on YouTube now.
I did say YouTube, so you must have. I must have just went too fast for you, Jay.
You do go pretty quick. Either that or I wasn't listening.
Well, it might be a little bit of both.
Yeah. All right.
I think I say it so much and so quickly that you just don't hear it every time.
That's probably true.
Yeah. So, all right. You want to let's just start quickly with this whole James Harden thing, because, like I said, I just had some thoughts and I wanted to get your opinion on it, because, man, and this is what the league, the NBA is heading towards a dangerous situation with players, because I don't think we've seen this happen really before, where a guy just basically, he absolutely just quit on his team, on his organization, and he got rewarded for doing
exactly.
So. I mean, he flat out, if you watch that game against the Lakers, the last night before he got traded, I mean, he was getting pissed off and throwing terrible passes and not playing what James Harden can do. And then you see his first game with the Nets, he goes out and gets a triple-double. So you obviously see that he still is in decent shape. I don't think he's in the best shape, but he's never really in the best shape.
I don't know. I think he lost 43 pounds in 24 hours.
That's what it looked like. What happened. If you saw some pictures, it literally is what it looked like. But it just really makes me angry that this happened, because you're getting rewarded for bad behavior. And it'd be different. Like, you've seen some other situations where guys have asked for a trade, and that's fine if you want to ask for a trade, but I feel like you should go out and do your job, because they're paying you so much money to do. And this franchise is literally giving you everything, because when Anthony Davis asked for a trade from New Orleans, that's just like one of the most recent ones. I mean, he gave that team his all. And I mean, I know those last couple games where they were out of the playoff hunt, but it was at the end of the season and there was no chance they were going to make the playoffs. So, I mean, he made him take some nights off, but I mean, he still went out there and played and didn't flat out just quit on the court. But that organization did nothing to really help him. I mean, he got to the playoffs 2 times. James Harden asked for Dwight Howard, got Dwight Howard, got him out. Asked for Kevin McHale, got Kevin McHale fired. Same thing with Chris Paul, Russell Westbrook. I mean, there was countless amount of things that the Rockets organization did for James. And then he just was like, hey, I'm done and I'm not even going to try.
On top of that, threw his other teammates under the bus, quit on all of them. just he was doing everything, going out without his mask, going out, not showing up, doing all this stuff that any non-superstar would – I mean, they'd be out of the league damn near for behavior that he did. And like you said, he was rewarded for it. Not only did he get the trade request that he wanted, he only had a few teams that he wanted to go to, the Nets being one of them, gets to team up with 2 other superstars and compete for a championship right away. So I don't – and we're going to probably talk about how we feel their championship team aspect could be if they can actually compete for one. I think me and you are both on the bandwagon that they're not beating those Western Conference teams. I still believe that even after James Harden goes out and does a triple-double in his first night. But the fact is that roster with 3 superstars, they have a big 3. They have a chance. If they can all play together, they're more than capable with the talent they have to make it all the way. So the fact that you did what you did and went to immediately one of the better teams in the NBA roster-wise, talent-wise, is just a slap in the face to the owners, I think, to everybody involved, the fans. I hate that this happened to James Harden. I
do too. And after his triple-double, I mean, you would have thought that this dude just cured cancer the way everybody was talking about it on Twitter. They were just ranting and raving about it.
Forgotten. Even in the media, on ESPN, the networks, the podcasts, everything. All anyone's talking about is his triple-double and how well he played. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
They're even talking about
sickening.
the weight loss as a positive, which it is. I'm glad he lost weight. But they're talking about these things and talking him up in a positive light, whereas 2 days ago he was getting destroyed in the media. Like exactly. It never happened now.
Because he wasn't showing up because, I mean, he didn't show up to anything like preseason. He barely showed up to practice. I mean, that game after he quit, the coach just said it was best for him not to come to practice. So obviously in that situation –
you said it best when you first got on here when you said the league could be headed down a scary path because the precedent that this is setting is –
if you're unhappy, just quit. You basically, if you're unhappy –
yeah, if you're a good player and you don't want to be on that team anymore and you got better options that you think you could go compete somewhere else, you can just flat out quit because somebody will trade for you. No different than fucking what Antonio Brown did in the NFL. And you know what? Someone took a chance on him because he's a Pro Bowl player, an all-pro player, and he had skill. Didn't matter what he did. Didn't matter how many times he screwed over his teammates in the past. Didn't matter how selfish he was before. The coaches were like, we'll take a chance on him because he's pretty good. And that pretty much shows you what the league's all about in the NBA right now.
It's dumb because, I mean, this happened with Vince Carter in like 2004, but, I mean, you didn't have Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or anything, so you don't really hear about it that much, but it happened where he basically just quit on Toronto, and then they traded him to New Jersey, and then there he was making all-star teams left and right. So this is like the James Harden thing over and over again. Even when guys do ask for trades, like, you know my feelings about Paul George. Like, I can't stand Paul George. I used to like him. Can't stand his guts anymore. He at least didn't quit on the Pacers when he said, hey, I'm not going to re-sign here. Trade me. Albeit, I mean, he went out and said things after that obviously made me hate him even more. But, I mean, he went and played every single game. And just to bring up LeBron, I mean, LeBron has jumped teams. This is technically his fourth team. He's played for the Cavs, Heat, Cavs again, then Lakers. So, but he filled out every contract that he had, played his all, and then left in the offseason when he was a free agent. I mean, Kyrie Irving demanded a trade. I mean, he also handled it really terribly as well because he was going to get surgery and not play for the Cavs if they didn't leave him. But this is like one of the only instances where a guy's asked for a trade and then just flat out quit and forced the owner's hand so bad to trade him that it was like, we can't take this anymore.
This is something that I believe the commissioner should have stepped in and denied the trade. He should have vetoed.
Well, I mean, they did nothing. I mean, the dude wasn't there. He was not following protocols, and he barely even got fined. I think he got fined one time when he missed a couple games. He wasn't able to come because of the contact tracing and the safety protocols and whatever. So, I mean, he was putting the whole team in jeopardy based on what he was doing outside of basketball, that they didn't even step in and do anything. It was embarrassing for the league.
And someone listening might say, can the commissioner do that? The commissioner could absolutely come in and veto that trade. They did it to Chris Paul when he was being traded to the Lakers. Nothing was even wrong with it. The commissioner just believed that it was bad for the league, that they would have been so stacked when they had Kobe and they would have got Chris Paul and he basically just flat out vetoed the trade. Even though a bunch of bullshit's happened since then, he could have easily stepped in and said, look, you can try and trade him, but I'm vetoing this because you're not going to give him a better situation and reward him for what he did.
Reward him, yeah.
Yep. So when you come with a better trade that I see fit, we'll allow it. And I would have had no problem with that.
And, I mean, I actually think that the Rockets did have a better trade because it was reported many, many times that the Sixers were willing to put Ben Simmons in a deal. It's just the Rockets wanted a ton of picks, and the Sixers weren't able to put in picks. I mean, I know that I think Fertitta, the owner of the Rockets, has ill will towards Daryl Morey, who's now the GM, basketball operations guy in Philly. So I think that probably had a lot to do with it. But you just got to swallow your pride and say, I'm going to get the best player, because they didn't even get anybody from Brooklyn. And the whole Karis LeVert goes to Indy, and then Victor Oladipo goes to Houston. So they get Victor Oladipo, who was on the last year of his contract, who doesn't even want to be there. It's reported he wants to go to Miami. It's a weird fit. I mean, you got John Wall now, Cousins, PJ Tucker wants out. Houston's just in a mess. I would have absolutely just got the best young player I could have and built around him, because odds are those first-round picks don't turn out to be shit. So I don't even think Houston got the best deal.
I just thought of this. Imagine if you've grown up in Houston your whole life and you're a big football and basketball fan. The situation right now where the Houston Texans, Deshaun's probably going to just walk out on that team and say, I'm done. It's looking horrible with what's going on in that locker room. You got Andre Johnson speaking out on Twitter.
Yeah, dude never talks
about the organization, and D-Hop backing them. And then now you got the Houston Rockets debacle with all this James Harden crap.
And not that long ago, you had the Houston Astros whole situation with the cheating in the World Series.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
I mean, that's your three major sports teams in the city of Houston. The last couple of years have not been kind to you.
No. But they've all ridden highs pretty recently. Which you all fell off a cliff fast.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't really like the trade for the Rockets because I think they lost completely. The Nets obviously win because they get Harden and they pair him with KD, and whenever Kyrie comes back, if he comes back, obviously you have a ton of firepower offensively. Indiana, now it's found out that Karis LeVert had a small mass on his kidney, so he's out indefinitely until that gets situated. But if he's able to come back and play, which I'm kind of surprised that trade even went through, if they found something really red flagged with his medical. I know they got an extra second-round pick and like almost $3 million extra on top of LeVert. But if he can come back and score, and if he can come back and play, that's what the Pacers need, is just a guy off the bench to just come in and give them instant offense. Because I actually like that move for the Pacers if LeVert can come back healthy.
Yeah, we're just kind of beating a dead horse at this point. I think the Rockets got the worst of all of it. And if I'm the Nets, I'm trading Kyrie immediately.
I am too.
Basically blaming it on your antics up to this point. You disrespect our coach. You basically disrespect the organization for just showing up when you please. Now all of a sudden we get James Harden. You want to come back? Like, nope, fuck it. You weren't here for us. I'm moving you on because I think KD and James Harden's a way better fit than Kyrie and KD. And get you some defensive players, because you know Harden and Durant are going to put the ball in the basket. Now get you some defenders to go along with it. And then, to me, I think they're
really some size, because they had to trade out Jarrett Allen, who was a really good player, and they didn't want to give him up, but they had to facilitate the deal. But, I mean, now think about this. So just imagine this, and we're going way back in time. When James Harden was traded from OKC, I mean, they chose Serge Ibaka and Russell Westbrook over Harden, essentially. So now OKC Thunder fans and Sam Presti are going to see what it's actually like when you get Harden and KD together. Because, I mean, Harden turned into this player, but I think he was ascending. You clearly saw that when he was in OKC.
Oh, yeah.
Now
when he was coming off the bench as a sixth man, everybody knew he could start at 20 other teams in the league.
He probably was going to be the starter next year in OKC after that finals run. But you're going to finally see that duo together of Harden and KD. Now, I don't know. They're pretty strapped for as far as what trades they can do. The buyout market is going to be big for them because I think they just have no size to deal with a guy like Embiid if they play the Sixers. I mean, I'm not ready to say that they're better than the Bucks or the Sixers or the Celtics, because I think the Celtics actually match up pretty well with what the Nets like to do with with Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Marcus Smart. I know you get just as far as defending them when Kyrie comes back, but it's just going to have to be a wait and see type deal because you're going to get the first couple of weeks where everybody's going to be in love with them because it's a honeymoon phase. They're going to score a bunch of points, but we'll see when it actually gets deeper into the season. We've seen this road before with James Harden. So
I really want to see how this offense is going to run when you got Kyrie who wants the ball in his hands and James Harden who wants the ball in his hands. Kevin Durant's pretty unselfish when it comes to having the ball in his hands on the court. He can catch and shoot from anywhere. So
I mean, he did it for 3 years in Golden State and was happy with it.
I don't think and was still putting up the same numbers he was in the OKC. So that's not going to be an issue. But the fact that you got two egotistical guys that
Kyrie and
run point guard, how's that going to work?
Yeah.
And when's the best player on the team, in my opinion, Kevin Durant, going to step in and be like, look, first of all, I'm the best
one. I need the ball.
Give me the damn ball. You guys figure out your problems on the side. So
he hated that in OKC with Westbrook, and now he's just got two guys that are basically they have like the three of the 7 highest usage rate guys over the last 9 years.
And I get that both of them can shoot better than Westbrook, but when it comes to all-around game, I'd way rather play with Westbrook than
neither of them want to be like just a spot-up guy in the corner. Neither of them want to do that. They both want the ball in their hands. Kyrie, it just hated. That was a big reason why he left LeBron because he wanted to bring the ball up the court so much.
Mm-hmm.
Now you've got KD and Harden who want to do it as well at times. So
it'll be interesting for sure.
That I just don't. It's going to be tough. There's a lot of toxicity there. But we'll move on.
Charles Barkley called him like the best soap opera on TV.
He called them the Dribble Brothers.
Yeah.
He said KD went from playing with the Splash Brothers to the Dribble Brothers.
Which is facts.
Yeah, it is. All right, let's move on. Jay, which game do you want to start with?
We can either start with Saturday's games or –
let's go Saturdays.
Okay.
We'll do Saturdays first.
Well, then let's start with the –
because that was Rams-Packers was the first game on Saturday. Let's just go there.
Ravens. So you want Packers-Rams. So, I mean, I got some bullet points right here on stuff I wanted to cover because I didn't want to forget anything. So Packers versus Rams.
You came prepared today.
Couple bullet points I got. One, Aaron Rodgers and that offense look unstoppable right now. I was so dead wrong on Matt LaFleur. He's right now, I mean, starting off with a better record as a head coach than anyone I can remember. Better than McVay when McVay was the hottest name.
26-6 in the regular season.
He went 13-3 last year, and they went 13-3.
What is he? 3-1 in the playoffs so far?
Yeah, and we'll get to the game after the upcoming game, but between Rodgers looks unstoppable. They got one legit receiving weapon, and he very well could be the best wide receiver in the league, Devontae Adams. Mm-hmm. So you got a quarterback that I'm in awe of when he makes throws, and I think it's clear as day he is making a statement to the Packers organization for not getting him help. And you can say
it's a revenge tour against his own team.
Facts. And you can say, well, they got him A.J. Dillon in the second or third round or whenever they got him. That's not what they needed. Have you seen Jamal Adams and Aaron Jones? They're a two-headed punch in themselves. And then you add A.J. Dillon. A.J. Dillon's played really good as of late. So a three-headed monster with them, I'm all for it. But the fact that you spent a first-round draft pick on a quarterback when you see Aaron Rodgers can still play like this and what that offense could look like if they had today's Tyreek Hill type of player, like a fast gadget player that can do sweeps and they can catch screens and they can go deep, just someone like that. They could have gotten somebody like that in the draft. Hell, easily. I don't care. Put Justin Jefferson on this offense. Put any of these receivers on this offense. Put Michael Pittman from the Colts. Give him a second option there. It's just what they did to him. Aaron Rodgers on a revenge tour. He looks unstoppable right now. This offense scored the most points in the league for a reason. My second point, what did you take of the comments from McVay where they asked him,
I sent it to you, didn't it? The thing I sent to you?
And he said he's the quarterback right now.
Well, apparently there was just a report today from Steve Weich from NFL Network that they need quote-unquote marriage counseling to salvage their relationship this offseason. Because
I don't think teams are scared of golf, and I think that showed against the Packers.
Well, I mean, I mean, McVay wasn't the one that went out and paid this guy.
No.
I mean, if John Wolford was healthy enough to play, he would have been the starter Saturday against the Packers. I have no doubt in my mind.
And I think McVay is okay in his offense finding a quarterback that he can just rotate in every 4 years and not pay him unless he finds someone special. I think he's not dumb enough to not pay him. But I think he believes in his system enough. He's like, if I can get me an Alex Smith type player or Jimmy Garoppolo type player, and then in 4 years replace him with another one.
I think Jared Goff has like the biggest cap hit of any quarterback in the league next year.
Well, I sent you what it would cost them to cut him.
Their dead cap, $65 million, just to flat out cut him.
They're not replacing him. No one's trading for that. So they're stuck with them. So these comments are not good. And if they come out and start like a Wolford at quarterback next year over Goff, what's that say about him? You're paying.
I mean, there's got to be an open competition this summer in training camp.
Because you have to win your locker room. If the locker room knows he is not the better quarterback and they play better with someone else, and you start the other guy just because his contract's bigger, your team is not going to play right for you.
No, they're not. Well, and I mean that defense looks pretty damn special. I mean, I know they just lost their defensive coordinator to the Chargers. Well, I'm just saying nobody really has the last 10 weeks of the season really against that Packers offense. But I mean, they've got something with that defense. It's just their offense can't score enough points and they can't muster it up. I mean, they were lucky enough to get through Seattle. It's just their defense was so good that Seattle couldn't do anything. I mean, so
they didn't have Cooper Kupp, so I know that hurts them a little bit. But Cam Akers is like their lone bright spot on offense right now. Mm-hmm. Robert Woods is a good receiver, but you've seen what he is, and he will beat you 6-7 times a game, which might be all they need on occasion. But you got a good young running back. Cooper Kupp's a good player. Robert Woods is a good player. Outside of that, their offensive line isn't great. Goff is an average quarterback.
I mean, Jared Goff's the guy in the group project at school who just gets an A for sitting there.
That's a good analogy, and I'm not mad at it. So,
because he's got so much talent around him, offensively, defensively, his head coach is pretty special. So, I mean, he's just kind of riding the coattails of this team right now, making a shitload of cash.
I'm not sold on the Rams' future because they have a lot of money tied up in a couple players on that defense and obviously at quarterback, and 2 of those 3 players are good. But the one that you need most is not.
The quarterback situation is pretty fucked.
Yeah, and on top of that, you have these comments coming out like it's only making the relationship worse. That is not good. And then you flip it around. I'll give a little bit of props to the Packers defense too, because the Packers defense actually looked better than the Rams defense yesterday.
The Packers defense, they got after Jared Goff. I mean, their pass rush looked really good. I mean, you've been the one who has just kind of doubted the Packers all year. I didn't pick them to go to the Super Bowl immediately, but I thought they were going to be one of the contenders for sure in the NFC because of the quarterback position that they have. And I mean,
I thought it'd be between Seattle and New Orleans, and they both shit the bed.
They did. They really did. But I mean, the Packers have just been special all year. Aaron Rodgers this is probably the best ever season from Aaron Rodgers. I mean, I don't know. He's had tremendous seasons before. It's just crazy that at age 37, I think he is 37 or 38.
He has lost nothing in arm strength.
Just the accuracy that he has with the timing and he has
placement of the ball, everything.
He's playing at a different speed than everybody else on the field.
I know.
He's seeing the game better than almost any quarterback ever has right now.
The play didn't work, but I texted you guys in the group text during the game because I like that you can hear what they're saying at the line of scrimmage now and everything because there's not that many fans. But Aaron Rodgers literally looked left at Tanya in one play and was like, hey, corner, just run a corner. All he was doing was running, and that's exactly what he ran. He was just running the DB out of there so he can create some space and try and make a play happen. It didn't work, but that's the type of crap that Aaron Rodgers is doing on the field. I know I hate the analogy, and it's so cliche, but he is literally playing chess while the defense is playing checkers. He's just sitting there figuring out what you're doing. He's getting these motions real quick, and then
what he did with Devontae Adams at the goal line with Jalen Ramsey, he was like, okay, He was like, just run in motion, then we're going to run you back, and that's
I
all
don't
I'm
know if LaFleur watched the Alabama-Ohio State game because he pretty much did what Devontae Smith did in that game. He was just running them back and forth, figuring out what they're in. Okay, they're in man. The second he gets back over here halfway, I'm hiking the ball. Ramsey can't catch him. He's going to be running in traffic, and it's going to be wide open. Then if they run zone, Devontae Smith's one of the best at finding the soft spots in the zone, knowing where Rodgers wants to throw the ball and catching it that way. So I thought it was a little fun watching Devontae Adams go against Jalen Ramsey pregame, then go at him during the game.
Yeah, I mean, he
made
Ramsey eat his words. He for sure got the better of him.
Ramsey talks a lot of crap, and he backs it up 95% of the time. He is the best corner in the game, in my mind. No question about it.
It looks really bad when a game like this happens. It's not taking anything away from Jalen Ramsey. It's just right now, Rodgers and Devontae Adams are on a completely different level.
And I always loved the guy. This is why we talked about him earlier. I always loved Andre Johnson because you don't hear shit from Devontae Adams. He doesn't come out and talk a bunch of crap before the game. He doesn't tweet a bunch of crap about the games afterwards. He's not talking crap on the DBs. He just goes out there, puts up 150 catches, whatever, does his thing. Aaron Rodgers looks at him every play. He's always open, just goes to work. And then you come to find out this guy talking mad stuff before the game.
He was.
And all Devontae was saying was like, look, I'm not the one. I'm not like these other dudes you've been guarding. So just let's see what you got today. Ramsey took offense. I think I know why he took offense now because Devontae Adams gave him the business during that game.
He did give him the business. So, I mean, Packers look unstoppable. I mean, and the Rams had a good season. The Rams definitely overachieved to me because I didn't even think they would make the playoffs. Because I didn't see their defense being this special this year. And I like actually what they did because I talked about it before, but I think Sean McVay just went back to the drawing board and was like, okay, I got to figure some shit out because the league's kind of figured out what I've done.
Yeah.
So props to the Rams for a good season. But the Packers were just a better team.
I covered my bullet points. Anything you want to add?
Nope. That's good with me.
So Ravens, Bills.
This one was on. This one stirred a very big argument between.
I was going to bring it up because I want people to know our stance on it.
Us in the group text.
And maybe if that person listens to the episode, they'll get a better idea of what we're trying to say because it's hard to describe in text. And maybe he fully flat out knows what we're trying to say and still doesn't agree. But the argument came.
I just don't think he does agree.
Would you pay Lamar Jackson? Take it away because we're both in the same boat.
I told you that I would feel comfortable paying him $30 million a year. Now I don't think he's.
I think he's going to ask for around 35, which
and he probably will.
Rate.
Because Deshaun Watson's at 39 annually, I believe. Patrick Mahomes, I think if you go for the longevity, he's around 40. Russell Wilson's about 34 or 35. I think even Matt Ryan's at 35 a year. So Lamar Jackson, yes, he probably is going to ask for that. And now it may be a little more than I would feel comfortable. Really just honestly paying any quarterback really in the league because that's just a lot of money to pay anybody, period, for
and you're kind of a
any job. But you get what I'm saying. So, yes, I would feel comfortable with him and paying him because my thing is just because you don't win a Super Bowl every single year, that doesn't mean you're not a successful team because a big part of my argument was, would you rather be the Jags every year? Because the Jags have still not been able to find a quarterback that are relevant every year. They're not talked about ever. They don't sell a lot of tickets. Because first of all, it is also a business as well. So if I'm an owner, I got to put seats in those stands because that's how I can pay these players. Because we get on the Monday night games, we get on the Sunday night games. We're talking
Lamar's
about
electric. He's putting
exactly
in the seats,
and he's 32-7 as a starter. Just like I said, and it's only his third season so far. He's taken his team to the playoffs all 3 years, and he finally won his first playoff game this year. No, he didn't advance very far, and he played very poorly against the Bills, albeit. It's in Buffalo. It's cold. They actually have fans there.
First time playing in snow, I'm pretty sure.
Probably. Well, like I said, and they were actually allowed to have fans there. So it's they had I don't even know if they had around 9,000 people there, but it sounded like they had 70,000. They talked about it a bunch on the broadcast.
When they played the Colts, they were allowed to have 6,900, I think. And even the Colts players after the game were giving them props like it sounded like so many more than 6,900. And maybe that's because they haven't been around them all year and then,
and that's true. But still, Bills fans are crazy no matter what, no matter who's in the stands. So it was also a very raucous crowd, and so that probably affected it a little bit as well too. But I mean, yes, there is no doubt that he has to improve as a passer throughout his career to probably go on and win a Super Bowl. But that's just not going to be his game. I mean, if he's going to be around 60 completion percentage, maybe 3,000 passing yards and 1,000 rushing yards every year, I mean, that's just – I mean, if he does that for 10 more years, he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. I mean, there's no doubt about it because he'll have the most rushing yards of any quarterback. He doesn't take a lot of hits, so I'm not really worried about him getting injured. I really like his demeanor because, I mean, he just is – he wants to win. He plays hard. He shows up. I mean, I think he's a good leader. Those are a lot of things you have to look at too, rather than just his ability on the field. There's other things that come with it, and he has all the intangibles.
Yeah, and there's a saying, when your best player on the team is the hardest worker on the team, good things are bound to happen. I think that's him. He's the best player on the team, and he's one of the hardest workers, if not the hardest worker, from everything I've heard the coaches say, everything I've read. And our friend's argument kept going back to, he can't throw the ball. He's not going to be able to win a Super Bowl. When they take his running legs away from him, he's not able to throw the football. His running is so good. His running is the best I've ever seen. He, to me, is a better runner than Michael Vick was at the quarterback position.
I don't even think it's a question, honestly.
He's so dynamic. They can't stop him. He's faster than the defense. He's more shifty than running backs. And like you said, he doesn't take hits. He gets down. So, yes, he took that hit where he slammed his head into the end zone. That was on a play where the damn center snapped the ball over his head, and he was running back there to grab it. He had no chance against all the guys coming after him. So he doesn't take those hits very often. And what he lacks in throwing ability, he by far makes up for it in his running ability. He's easily top 5 running back in the league when the ball's in his hands. So
No doubt.
I used to be on the bandwagon. You got to be able to throw from the pocket. The game's changing. They're scheming offenses. You have to account for his running on every single play, which makes it way easier for a wide receiver to be wide open and him not have to make pinpoint accurate throws. Sometimes he'll have to make them. Further on down the line, when he's 30 years old, he's probably going to have to be a little bit better of a passer by then. Mm-hmm. I think it can happen. Look right across the field at Josh Allen. He was completing, 54% of his passes or something in college?
Before this year, he wasn't even above 60.
And he comes out this year and completes almost 70.
Almost 70.
And turns into which I want to give all the credit in the world to Josh Allen. I have said over and over on this podcast that he's got to prove it in the playoffs. And he comes out against the Colts in the first round, and he had an okay first quarter. And then after that, just put the team on his back. And his arm was like, the receivers weren't open at some points of the game. They were dropping some balls. Colts were getting pressure on him. And he just said, fuck it, I can use my legs too. Used his legs and beat him that way. And then before halftime, makes 2 fantastic throws on the sideline where the receiver, Davis, made some incredible catches. But he put him in that position. And he beat the Ravens the same way. He can do it either way. You want to take his legs away, he can stand in the pocket and deliver a good ball. And he can, if you want to drop back in coverage, he's going to torch you on the ground and run your linebackers over. Jump over him if he has to. So
I've seen him do it before.
Yeah. And so that's why I'm still a believer in Lamar Jackson too. Josh Allen's accuracy has gone for night and day from when he entered the league.
And also, it has a lot to do with his coaching. It also has a lot to do with he got some receivers with better catch radiuses because, I mean, and that's something I think the Ravens need to do as well. But I couldn't be happier.
We got Dez, but the dude's way past his prime.
He's like 40, and he's coming off an Achilles tear.
But they need someone like Dez in his prime.
Yeah, that's not the type of receiver I was talking about now. But, yeah, okay, Dez back then. Yes, you're correct. But I am so happy for Josh Allen because I was one of his – there was not many people that believed in Josh Allen. I mean, there were a lot of people that thought the Bills overdrafted him at 7, never thought he was going to pan out to be a good quarterback in the NFL. I really don't know what it was that I saw in him. It really is – I do actually. I fall in love with those quarterbacks that just have the huge arms because that's just something you can't teach. Accuracy is something you can teach, and it's just as freak abilities, just athletically. I mean, I just always had a feeling he was going to succeed in the NFL. I didn't know he was going to come this quickly. But, I mean, I've loved the guy since he was coming out of Wyoming. I mean, he didn't have the greatest game against the Ravens. I mean, but he made plays when he needed to. And like you talked, I mean, it was just a shitty first half by both teams. I mean, both
the game
teams
wasn't that fun to watch.
It was 3-3 at halftime. I mean, it was pretty bad. But then he had a really good drive in the second half where they went up 10-3, and then that defense just made a play in the end zone. Because look, I mean, as much as shit as Lamar Jackson was getting, I mean, it was a 10-3 game, and they were in. I think they were at the 16-yard line or something, and then the Bills return a pick six, 101 yards, go up 17-3. So I mean, that obviously changed the game drastically, but it was a very close game until that point. So,
and he texted us right then and was like, "That's why you don't pay him." I can put a highlight reel together on why you should pay him. It was one play. It was a bad read.
Yeah.
He didn't see the safety coming across, and he just got intercepted. And how often does someone take it 100 yards for a touchdown? Who knows if they would have stopped him, like if they would have tackled him before he scored, maybe they hold him to 3 and it's a different game. I don't know. But the fact that they took it 100 yards plus probably made him feel a little bit better about his comment on that's why you don't pay him. But shit happens. I'm not saying that he's ever like going.
You're absolutely paying Josh Allen though.
100%. And I never even once said Lamar will win a Super Bowl, but his argument that it's impossible for him to win one is
I don't agree with that.
He 1,000% has a chance to win a Super Bowl. Like I told him, you put him on the Colts roster right now, I think they're a Super Bowl contender. Not saying they're going to win a Super Bowl. You got to coach them up. You got to make the right plays. You got to have the ball bounce your way a few times. But there's some teams that he could go to right now and make them Super Bowl contenders. Just like put him on the Steelers. Tell me that offense isn't cooking with Lamar Jackson along with that defense.
There's a lot of them.
So he can win a Super Bowl. It's just going to have to say he can is idiotic to me.
And it's hard. It's just flat out hard. I mean, Dan Marino is one of the best quarterbacks all time. Never won one. I mean,
what's his name? The one Dilfer, the most average to below average quarterback you've ever seen in the league.
Tom Brady,
the most average quarterback you've ever seen in the league, and he's got 6 of them. You know, it's about your surroundings. So.
I mean, shit, he won 6 by throwing 5-yard dump offs. I mean, did you see his dumbass yesterday? We'll just segue right into that. Dive right in.
I think I have the most points on this game in my notes.
The thing that you texted me yesterday, it's just nothing in that game that he did was impressive at all, and they won. I mean, and that's really just been the biggest thing that just grinds my gears because he gets all of the praise if they win, but if you watch that game, he did nothing special. Obviously, he didn't turn the ball over, but still, I mean, he did nothing.
That's the biggest compliment you can give him about the game yesterday.
Exactly.
But people talk about it like he won the game for him. Like
up until those last couple throws where Brees threw those 2 interceptions, you texted me and you said, Brady and Brees have basically played identical games, but it's going to become Brees is washed and Brady's still the fucking go.
Yep.
And that's what it was. That was the talk after the game.
And I even put down some stats. So where's the stat here? So where I said they basically played the entire game the same, they had damn near identical completions. Brees had 1 more completion and 1 more attempt. So they basically had the same completion percentage. They both had under 200 yards passing. The difference was Brees threw 3 interceptions and Tom Brady threw 3 passes that should have been picked off that weren't.
Yes, he did.
So the Bucs defense capitalized on their opportunities, whereas the Saints defense missed those opportunities. But it very easily could have been 3 interceptions to 3 interceptions. And Brees had a touchdown. Tom Brady had 2. Let me talk to you about those two touchdowns. He had 3 total touchdowns, but he had 2 passing.
He had the 1 rushing at the end, yeah.
The Saints turned the ball over 4 times. All 4 of those were in the Saints' territory. So Tom Brady, the maximum yards he had to go was 50 yards for a touchdown. The first touchdown, they got the ball at the 3-yard line, and he threw a 3-yard pass for a touchdown. Most teams would have lined up and threw the ball. I can't blame them because they put the ball in the end zone. That's what you're supposed to do. So they called the right play, but they hadn't done shit offensively to that point. And he gets the ball at the 3-yard line, so his first touchdown, 3 yards for a touchdown. The second touchdown turnover, he threw a total of 14 yards for that touchdown. And on his third touchdown, where he ran the ball in, he threw for a total of 25 yards to get that touchdown. So
I think it came all on one pass to Scotty Miller, didn't it?
It was a 14-yard pass to Scotty Miller, and then he ran 1 yard. So, all in all, he threw for 42 total yards for 3 touchdowns, where his defense put him in those positions. The turnovers, the defense, and the run game was a story.
This game really changed when Jared Cook fumbled because it was a 3rd and 2, slant play. Jared Cook catches it. Antoine Winfield just makes a hell of a play. Comes out, punches the ball from out behind him. Devin White picks it up, runs it back to like you said, like the 25-yard line or something. That's when the game really changed because the Saints looked like they had all the momentum. It was after halftime. They had just scored. They stopped the Buccaneers. They were getting the ball back, and they were driving because they looked like, again, they were at least going to go up 23-13, make it a 10-point game. The Bucs have zero momentum at all. It just – I know there's no fans in the Superdome, but if there would have been, that place would have just deflated immediately because the Saints sideline deflated immediately, and so did all their players because then they go down, the Bucs tie it, and then the Saints just can't do shit from then on. I mean, Drew looked terrible. Their offense, they couldn't run the ball after that point, so it was just the turnovers.
There should have been 2 MVPs given in that game, an offensive and a defensive MVP. Defensive, the entire unit. They played lights out and shut the Saints down, giving them 4 turnovers all on the Saints side of the field. The offensive MVP should be Drew Brees because he fucked that whole game up for them. And when I texted you and said
he was the best quarterback for the Bucs yesterday.
Yeah, and when I texted you and said the storyline is going to be Drew Brees is washed and Brady saved the day and he's the GOAT. One of those statements is accurate. Brees is washed, and that's easy to see. Brady is getting rewarded for these 5-yard dump-offs. Go look at all his passes he attempted down the field.
They were 1 of 7 for passes past 20 yards, and then Troy Aikman's on the broadcast blaming his receivers. I texted you, and I said, it's just stupid. Gronkowski has to lay out. He's 6'6". He is diving all the way laid out, and it's still going barely off of his fingertips. And Troy Aikman's like, oh, that's the second time Gronk's not been able to pull that one down. Well, no shit, Troy, because it was a terrible fucking throw.
He looked like Superman diving through the air trying to grab that thing. If I would have told you this at the beginning of before the game started, or the following day, I should say, if I said the Bucs hold Brees to 130 yards and 1 touchdown, and the Saints turn it over 4 times on their own side of the field, and Drew Brees or the Bucs don't turn it over 1 time, how bad do you think that score should have been?
It should have been like 40-10.
You mean like the first time they played and the Saints beat them 40-3 or whatever it was?
38-3. Yeah.
And the turnover differential was 3-1. This was 4-0, and you could only squeak out a 10-point win. I don't know. And you could call me hating because they won by double digits, and that's what I'm going to. But this was not impressive. And that 30 points that they put up because the fact that they got 4 turnovers on their side of the field, that shit ain't flying because Aaron Rodgers ain't turning the ball over like he did in the first game. And he's not going to quit in the second half because he already knows the game's out of reach.
Yeah.
He's going to take care of the ball, and they're going to have to put up 35, 40 points to stop him.
Well, you were just talking about how neither of us, and it was a very unimpressive win by the Bucs and Brady, in my opinion. We were watching the game last night, and Connor was like, why do all of Tom Brady's passes hit the ground? I was like, hey, I said, you barely watch any football, and you see this shit. I was like, I don't know how those idiots up in the booth, those morons on ESPN, for 20 years, I said he's been getting away with this bullshit.
Yep. And I'll tell you.
Winning cures all. Winning cures all. That's all you got to do is win, and nobody says shit.
If Drew Brees wasn't Drew Brees and be loved by Saints fans, and I'm not saying that I wouldn't have done the same thing, but just that one pass that Jameis threw, that should have been the quarterback playing the second half of that football game. That quarterback could have led them and won that game. You can tell me that Jameis throws 30 interceptions in a season. Brees threw 3 fucking yesterday. Jameis wouldn't have done any worse. Jameis wouldn't have done any worse.
I love Drew so much. I mean, he's a Purdue guy. He's a Purdue legend. We're both from Lafayette. I mean, that's really close to. I mean, you're a Purdue graduate. I mean, and So I've rooted for him forever. It sucks to see him go out like this, but it just happens like that sometimes. I mean, it doesn't happen gradually and so gracefully sometimes. I mean, you saw it with our guy Peyton. I mean, it went quick for him. It went quick for Brett Favre when it happened to Favre.
Eli fell off a cliff fast.
Eli, I mean, I think Phillip Rivers is heading towards that in a year or two. So I mean, it just comes quick for these guys. Roethlisberger, there you go, another prime example where it comes, and it sucks to see that. And that may be the last image that you have of Drew Brees, which is very unfortunate. I mean, he's no doubt a first ballot Hall of Famer. I mean, he's probably a top 6 or 7 quarterback ever, but it's a tough one to go out.
I'm not a hater just because it's Tom Brady. I will give credit when credit's due. I don't believe he deserves credit for this win at all.
I don't either.
But I will say what he's doing at 43 is damn impressive.
What he's been – I actually said this last night. I said what he's able to do with his body, of how just physically fit and just what he's done over the years to be even on the field and not looking completely decrepit. I mean, obviously he's lost a bunch and everything, but he just – it's a major credit to him. That's the best thing he's ever done in his career.
Exactly. And every quarterback we just named, Phillip Rivers, Eli Manning, Peyton Manning, Brett Favre, Drew Brees, all of them, at 43 years old, going through all the seasons that Brady did, if you put all of them on the field at 43, they're going to look worse than Brees did last night.
I agree.
So that is damn impressive of what Tom Brady's done. He's doing at 43. It makes me hate it more because they still hype him up like he's the best quarterback in the league right now.
Like he's carrying this team.
The narrative should be how
a team in like 10 years.
The narrative should be how good he's playing for a 43-year-old quarterback, not he's the GOAT. I mean,
yeah,
that's just my opinion.
I know. No, and that's one of the biggest things that's always drove me nuts is he's just gotten the biggest pass from everybody. I talked about it last week, how every quarterback is expected to win the Super Bowl immediately, and it's because of this douchebag. Because everyone expects to do what he did his first couple of years in the league. But if you look at those numbers from his first 3 Super Bowls, he was carried by a running game and a defense. That's just what just pisses me off so much. I know that he's got all these numbers now, but he did not do that those first 3 years in the league with Belichick and those defenses. Go look up all the numbers. It is not anything that's false, what I'm saying.
Yep. And if you ever get a minute, just type into YouTube, Barry Tom Brady. Barry Tom Brady.
McCockiner.
Yeah, you don't have to put his last name in. I looked it up on YouTube yesterday, and then it should be the first or second video that says Tom Brady is the most overrated quarterback of all time.
He's the most overrated athlete in sports history.
If you have 20 minutes, just watch that video and just see what it says. See if you agree. See if maybe you overlooked a couple small details throughout his career.
Because I'm sure you have.
Yeah, agreed.
Anyways,
we got one.
I didn't think that the wait, one more game. We did all 4 of them, didn't we?
We didn't do.
Oh no, we didn't. We did the Chiefs and the Browns. Anyways, let's just. I really don't think the Packers will lose at home to the Bucs. I really don't. I think the Bucs. Brady's used to playing in the snow, yes.
Not everybody else.
I mean, he's also 43, and his arm won't look the same in the cold as it has 10 years ago in New England.
Yeah.
So exactly, all those guys are used to warm weather. Tampa. Yep. It's not like they can go there and practice early. Because of COVID and everything, they have to stay in Tampa and practice in the warm.
Especially their 2 running backs. Ronald Jones played at USC on the West Coast and then comes straight to Tampa Bay down in Florida. Leonard Fournette came from LSU down south, goes to Jacksonville in Florida, and now stays in Florida and Tampa Bay. I would like to see how both of those guys are going to hold up in this cold weather. Antonio Brown got a little bit of it in Pittsburgh. Chris Godwin's been.
They said he was hurt last night. I mean, he didn't really look. I mean. He didn't. I think he only played like a handful of snaps. He didn't play very much.
I think the offense of Tampa Bay is going to look bad next week.
Well, and I just think I don't think there's anybody stopping this Packers offense right now. No. I mean, you saw the Buccaneers were actually They didn't really cover that well. It's just
they didn't have to
get it in the spots.
And they were pressing. They were very hands-on with all the receivers. Because they know you're running underneath routes. All I got to do is stay in front of you, and you're not going over the top.
Because they couldn't beat them over the top.
That ain't happening against the Packers. First of all, you ain't jamming Devontae Adams because he's probably the best off the line there is in the game. Then you ain't fucking jamming. What are you going to jam MVS? Because he's going right over the top. He's one of the fastest guys in the league. He had the most yards per catch average in the whole league at like 18 yards per catch. He's going to use motion. He's going to know what they're doing. This could be an ugly game next week, in my opinion. And
it could.
If
this is the first time Aaron Rodgers is hosting an NFC Championship game in his career.
That's pretty cool. And that's
odd.
Might be the first time that Tom Brady's going on the road in a championship game.
Well, he went on the road a couple times to Indy and to Denver when Peyton was there.
Didn't he lose both of them?
He lose all three of them.
There you go. So
Indy once, Denver twice.
So here we go. This will be fun. But if I just want to see the narrative.
I like the Packers by 10.
I'm with you. Packers by 10. And let's say the Packers win by 10. What's going to be the narrative the next day? Oh, Tom Brady at 43 years old.
He didn't have enough help.
The NFC Championship, but just
no. It's always he didn't have enough help, Jay.
But he has all these weapons. Chris
Godwin heard about it all
would be
year.
Number one team on half the league. Antonio Brown would be a number one wide receiver on half the league. Mike Evans would be a number one receiver on half the league. Teams would still line up to get Gronk in the game on their team.
I'm telling you, that's what it's going to be. It always turns into that shit. They're going to make up every excuse in the book for this guy.
And now I know he probably has a lot to do with it by how fast he gets the ball out and the checks he does. But it was always Tom Brady's offensive line in Tampa Bay. He's working with nothing, whereas PFF, Pro Football Focus, has him as one of the better lines in the league. And Tristan Wirfs was a huge upgrade. He was already a top 5 tackle in the league.
Has been amazing. The Saints defensive line yesterday didn't even sniff Brady.
So I don't want to hear it. If the Packers
and there were points where he held onto the ball for a while. They just couldn't get to him. So the Packers got to get to him.
Yeah, if they come out and throttle him, I want to see what the narrative is.
Yeah, but we both like the Pack. All right, let's move to the Browns and the Chiefs because this one –
big storyline is Mahomes.
Yes, if he's going to be able to play or not.
Yeah.
And the Browns were almost in a lose-lose situation yesterday because if they win, it's only because Mahomes loses. And if
Granted,
they lose,
I'm sure they would rather have won with that being the narrative.
But hold on, but you know what I'm going to say. If they win, oh well, you only won because Mahomes was out. And if you lose, oh well, you should have beaten it. How do you not beat the Chiefs without Mahomes
for a quarter and a half?
Yeah, so they were basically in a lose-lose situation. I know, obviously, they actually went and played pretty well. Actually, even when Mahomes was in the game, it's not like the Chiefs were absolutely dominating the Browns. I mean, this doesn't look like the same old Browns that you're used to. I mean, they actually look tough. They're well coached. They have a system that they know what they're doing in. I think Baker looks pretty comfortable in this offense. And, I mean, they've had talent for a couple of years. They just didn't know how to put it together. And it looks like they are. I really wasn't impressed with the Chiefs yesterday. And I don't know if that had to do with they basically had 3 weeks off and haven't really played meaningful football. But I was not that impressed with them yesterday. I really want to know what you think.
I don't know how you weren't impressed. Like you just said, Mahomes hadn't played in like 3 weeks, 20 days. They come out and score on like 5 of their first 6 possessions or something.
Yeah, the first drive was impressive, but after that,
they kept putting points on the board, whether it be field goals or touchdowns. The kicker missed a field goal that he usually drains. So it was impressive how easily, to me, they were able to go right down the field and score the football. The Chiefs' defense, on top of that,
they ended up with 22 points.
They missed him almost the entire second half. He had 250 yards and 3 touchdowns in the first half, I think, or first.
You're high.
2.5 quarters.
3 touchdowns all day.
2.5 quarters. Okay, 2 touchdowns. I know he threw one right off the jump. He ran another one in.
He ran one in and threw one. Yeah.
And he had multiple field goal opportunities for his kicker. So he marched, and like you just said, he hadn't played for 3 weeks.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I just wasn't that impressed with what they did.
I'm just curious if he's going to
play. I thought they looked very beatable.
I would take if Mahomes is fully healthy and they play the Bills next week, I will take the Chiefs by at least a touchdown.
I mean, I'm not saying that I'm going to pick the Bills to beat them. I'm just saying, I mean,
You're a
I do
huge
think
believer in the Bills, and you just said the Chiefs look very beatable, and you weren't impressed. So how would you not take the Bills, and now all of a sudden you're saying you would take the Chiefs?
What I'm saying is I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any means. I think it'll be close. I will favor the Chiefs in this game for sure, but I legit think that the Bills can go there and win. I'm not trying to hedge or anything because I'll still pick the Chiefs. If I had to put money down, I'd put it on the Chiefs and Mahomes at home because he's the best quarterback in the league. They're one of the best teams. So, but I'm just saying, don't be surprised if the Bills go in there and beat the Chiefs because unless they just come out and look tremendous because they have that ability to do so. It's just they haven't. You said, and I like this point where you thought they were just bored, and maybe they were, but also there were times where they just were very stagnant on offense, and they got that way in the second half yesterday, even when Mahomes wasn't hurt.
So a team that I believe has been bored, that their best player hasn't played for like 20 days, so he had a little bit of rust. And to come out and put enough points up in 2.5 quarters to beat a team that you're very high, or that, I mean, a lot of people were high on. I'm not going to call you out specifically because you haven't been a huge Browns fan, but they're a good team. To be able to do all that against that Browns team, still come out with the win with Chad Henne playing for a quarter and a half, to me, I look at it as the exact opposite of you. I'm so impressed. I'd be nervous if I was anybody else with all that shit that happened, and they still were able to beat the Browns.
If Chad Henne plays, are you picking the Bills?
Absolutely not, but that's a completely different team.
So you would still pick the Chiefs to win?
Oh, I heard you wrong. I would absolutely not pick the Chiefs if Chad Henne is
okay.
Okay. But that's a completely different team. I'm expecting Mahomes to play.
I am too.
Andy Reid said he was fine after the game. It was, I don't believe this. He said he got the wind knocked out of him a little bit. He had more than the wind knocked out of it. He was seeing stars. He didn't even know.
I mean, he was definitely woozy. It was a weird thing because it really wasn't that hard of a hit.
No.
It was like I said, his neck just rolled weird. So I don't know if it just like kind of made his it just kind of sent like a tingling sensation down his back or anything like that. I don't know if that's what it was, but
future's bright for the Browns though. Really,
yeah, I like what the Browns did. The Browns went to Pittsburgh. I mean, they kicked the Steelers' ass, and then they actually went up, and they were within 5 points of winning a game from the defending Super Bowl champions. I mean, who are going to host the AFC Championship game for 3 straight years at home, and that's never been done in the AFC.
I want to hear you.
Which I was actually really surprised that the Patriots never did that.
That surprises me too, and I didn't know that till you just said it.
Yeah, Andy Reid's done it in both conferences with the Eagles and the Chiefs. That's fucking impressive.
That is impressive. Andy Reid is a damn good coach. He's second best coach in the league. 3 points I want to ask you about from this game. One, what did you think of the Rashard Higgins play on the sideline? That's a game changer. That was a chance.
Yeah, that just completely changed the game.
Rashard Higgins catches the ball. He's trying to make a play. He reaches the ball out to try and score, gets it knocked out of his hands. It goes in the end zone and out of the back of the end zone. So by rule, that's a touchback. It's the Chiefs' ball. Then they get to march forward and not allow the Browns to score any points. I think that was a helmet-to-helmet that they missed for sure.
I think the NFL got a call because in the very first drive of the Saints game, they had an illegal helmet-to-helmet hit on Emmanuel Sanders, which really wasn't even that egregious. But they were like, well, shit, this just happened on the other game. So we got to call it at least once so that they still think we called this, because it was very odd timing and a really just a bad call in that Saints-Bucks game. But I mean, that absolutely changed the game because there you go. What were they going to be up like? Or it was going to be like 13-10.
They were going to bring it within 3, I think.
Yeah, I think it was going to be 13-10, and then the Chiefs would have had to go down and drive, and they may have gotten a field goal or a touchdown or whatever after that, even though. But still, I mean, the Browns are feeling good. They scored a touchdown. I mean, it was clear that they just missed a helmet-to-helmet contact. I mean, it was just clear that happened. And, I mean, I don't know what to say other than it sucks, and they just missed the call, but it completely shifted the game.
And I don't like all the criticism that Higgins getting after the game. Like, even their head coach, he kind of defended him, but kind of didn't, because he was like, hey, I love Higgins. He's a great player for us. He does everything right. He tries hard, but then he kind of followed it up by, but that's not how we do it here. I coach them that they don't stretch the ball out. Ball security is number one down there.
That's the Bill Belichick rule.
Now, I don't have that much of a problem with it because hindsight's always 20/20. It's such a freak play that it rolled into the end zone and then out of the back of the end zone, because where he got hit, the ball easily could have went out of bounds inside the field of play. They would have just gotten the ball at that point. But the dude's trying to make a play for his team. He stretches the ball out. That play happens 1 out of 10 times in that same exact
exactly. It's very rare that happens.
So I like that he was
doing
that extra effort.
Though.
But yes, it does. So I just don't like all the crap that he's getting today for doing that. Brandon Marshall's on First Things First saying, I would have never done that. You don't do that if you're a receiver. You got to know situational football and where you're at on the field and all this stuff. And I'm like,
he probably did it over his career.
I don't know. I applaud him because had he scored that, it's a completely different game, and the Browns might have won that ball game.
But I mean, it's a playoff game. You're trying to do everything you can. You know that points come at a premium against this team that can score in 5 seconds. You have to do everything in your power.
Super Bowl champs. You have to pull out all the stops to dethrone them.
You got to do everything. You got to, and he was trying to lay his ass out on the line. And to be fair to Rashard Higgins, there was a legal contact that just wasn't called.
Exactly.
I mean, that's the bottom line of that.
And I'm not mad that they didn't call that either, because that's such a bang play that right at the goal line, that's a crucial play.
Now, let me ask you this. Do you think that should be reviewable? Because that was a huge debate. I think Boomer Esiason said it after the game that should be a reviewable play.
I'm up for everything being reviewable as long – I wish they would get one more challenge each, and then you use them as you see fit. If you want to challenge a holding call, if you want to challenge a pass interference, because there's a lot of things that you can't challenge that come up and are very crucial in the outcome of a game.
I'm all for just getting shit right.
They were wrong. Exactly. So I'm all for giving the coaches one more challenge and letting them use them on anything they want that they see fit, because anything that could cause you to turn the ball over, to have a big outcome on the game, why shouldn't you review it just to make sure you got it right? No one's going to turn off the TV because the game went from 3 hours to 3 hours and 5 minutes because they had one more review that they wanted to make sure the call on the field was the correct call.
Well, I think most fans are kind of in our camp where just get it right.
Exactly.
I mean, this happens more times than not. I mean, it was especially big after that Saints-Rams game, but there's a ton of games that end. Or this one, for example, this one wasn't even at the end. It was in the middle of – it was right at halftime. So damn near the smack dab middle of the game this happens. There's plays like this all the time that just are make or miss.
Yeah, and I wanted to give one of my other points. It wasn't really a question. It was more of I wanted your reaction to what you saw in the play, how Chad Henne just put his – head down, scrambled for 14 yards, or maybe it was 13 because he came up shy.
Major cojones factor.
Yeah, and dove forward, and he gave his team everything he had. And then the very following play where it's 4th and 1, that you want to talk about cojones of Andy Reid to call what football, go for it. I thought they were just walking up to call. Even the announcers were like, they're not running a play. They just want to see if they can get them off sides and then maybe punt the ball. One,
or if anything, as QB sneak.
Yeah, one, they ran a play. Two, everyone would have thought you were running the ball. Why would you take a chance of one, turning the ball over, or two, an interception or a touchdown resulting from it with your backup quarterback? Andy Reid said, fuck analytics. I'm going to run a little out route right to Tyreek Hill.
I'm going to get the ball into my best player's hands at Tyreek Hill.
And he did. And they iced the game. That was a gutsy call.
It was very impressive. I mean, but that's where it's a double-edged play, because if they incomplete that, Andy Reid's a moron.
Exactly, which goes right back to my point on Higgins. Had he made that touchdown, he would have been looked at as
a hero. Even if they lose, I mean, it's still just a very impressive play by Higgins. So
that was a good game, I thought.
It was. That one was probably the best game, even though Mahomes gets knocked out. You never like to see anybody get injured. But like you said, I think he's fine. I just think they were being very cautious and not letting him back in, because he's the golden boy right now of the NFL. After that hit, I mean, it really wasn't that egregious, but if you say concussion and you bring it back in, that just kind of looks bad.
All right, so now we got the Chiefs against the Bills.
I basically already told you.
I was going to say we kind of already gave our opinions. I'm taking the Chiefs. You're taking the Chiefs unless Mahomes is out.
If Mahomes plays, I'm taking the Bills.
If Mahomes
There's
is
no doubt.
playing, I've said all year the Chiefs are the best team, and I don't think anybody's beating them.
But now, I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be close.
I agree. But the Packers have given me a reason to believe that they could compete with the Chiefs if everything's clicking because they can put some points up too. And that would be a shootout.
That would be a fun Super Bowl.
And that's actually what I'm hoping for is Packers Chiefs, just to see how it goes down. Because I think it'd be a fantastic game.
I'm all in for it. I'd be all in for Bills Packers as well.
Because not only do I not want Tom Brady in the Super Bowl, I also don't want him in there because I think it would be a horrible game. Because there's no way the Bucs are putting up the points that the Chiefs are.
No, they're not. I don't even think they're going to be able to put as many points up as Green Bay does. I really don't. I really think it's going to be a hell. I think it might be similar to when the Panthers just kicked the shit out of the Cardinals a few years ago in the NFC Championship game. And albeit Bruce Arians was the coach then, and they also had an aging quarterback in Carson Palmer. So maybe a very similar scenario for BA. I still love BA, but
you got any closing remarks?
No, I'm good, man. We can get out of here on that. So.
All right. Until next time.